seem to understand. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
All right. What is it? Tuesday night? That means it's Tuesday night live stream. Tuesday night Radio Baloney Live. I'm your host, Richie Baloney. How's everybody's week going? Going good? Hope everything's going well for you guys. We got a couple guys we got a couple of you in the chat already. We got Rumbum in the chat. We got Spambot Fodder in the chat. Good to see you guys. What are you guys talking about? Let's see. It's like Spambot Fodder was in first. Did you get the first like? Did you get the first like? Because the first like gets double good karma. Rumbum's saying hit the like button 3 times. He's asking if that's enough good karma, because you get good karma every time you press the like button. Is that enough good karma to get a True Gina the fuck out? True Gina. I think it's going to take all the good karma in the world to get True Gina to fuck off. Let's see. Hey, we got Rosie in the stream. Good to see ya. All right. Okay, everybody. What are we going to talk about tonight? Let's get to it. So, this is kind of funny. Donald Trump Jr. says his dad may remove mainstream media from the press room. Now, I'm not talking about removing all of the mainstream media, but, taking a couple out and putting in maybe a Joe Rogan in there or somebody from Joe Rogan. Who knows? Maybe like a Dave Rubin or something. Just not a mainstream, like a legacy narrative journalist. It's an interesting thought. Why not? I mean, somebody with I'm sure Tim Pool could send somebody over there, and it apparently got a bigger audience, at least in the key demo, than MSNBC does. Why not? We're going to talk about the Trump tariffs and his kind of, this is his technique. Like Trump has his technique of negotiation, and he comes out, shock and awe, and then he settles down to something reasonable. We're going to talk about this, the 10% tariff on China, which he's talking about fentanyl. And fentanyl is a very big deal, and it's killing tens of thousands of people every year in the United States. It's killing many, many people, in Canada. Fentanyl is a problem. This is an interesting one. He's also talking about a 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada, and this is to do with drug smuggling and human smuggling, about illegal border crossings. We'll get into this. This is something that it's sad that it's come to this for Canada, but after 9 years of having a woke fancy boy, a Justin Trudeau, this is the sort of thing that happens. Everything just gets out of control. I'm afraid in Canada, we've just let the Spaniards in the pantry for 9 years, and it's just a problem now, and it's got to be taken care of. We'll talk about that. We'll see reaction from Pierre Poilievre, from Trudeau himself, obviously. And we'll spend a bit of time on that. Ontario town forced by Human Rights Tribunal, the kangaroo court, the far left kangaroo court human rights tribunals in Canada. Ontario town forced by Human Rights Tribunal to pay LGBTQ group $10,000 after not honoring Pride Month. So now Pride is mandatory. Russia, they'll take you to a Human Rights Tribunal and force you to pay them. Mayor must give $5,000 of his own money. Feel like you're in the Soviet Union yet? Because this is just the woke commissars coming after anybody and enforcing ideological purity. This is insane. We'll talk about that. And we'll talk a little bit about these human rights tribunals and what they've been up to in Canada. Here's a story about a Canadian comedian who had to go all the way to the Supreme Court to have the Human Rights Tribunal's decision. They find him or a decision for $42,000 in the complaint made against him for telling a joke. We'll talk a little bit about how they work and how any Western country should avoid these things like the plague and how they have to be abolished in Canada. They're just terrible. Let's see what else we're going to talk about. Sharon Stone, these celebrities, these Trump deranged celebrities, are they not aware that they're not smart? And if they ever seemed smart, it's because they were reading lines somebody else wrote for them on camera. Somebody needs to inform them of this. They're not all that bright. If they were, they would have written their own movies, but they're not able to do that. Maybe they just shouldn't speak publicly. Might be a good idea, unless somebody else writes it for them. Let's see. What do we got here? New York Times and Business killed stories at the 11th hour covering new research on DEI pedagogy and its negative psychological impacts. We've known that it's totally counterproductive to its own stated goals for a long time. What else we got? We'll take a look at from Elon Musk. Worth showing this again. You can see the mind virus spread rapidly, just like a physical virus, seeing the use of words on the internet, searches for words. And you can see right around Trump time, they just go straight up, things like homophobia, racism, blah, blah, blah. It's very interesting. We'll take a look at that. It's interesting in the fact you can see how manufactured it was as a control mechanism. Then, of course, we'll go through. We've got James Carville going on a real rant against wokeness here, wokeness in the Democrat Party. I think you're going to enjoy it. He really goes in. Let's see. We got some Joe Rogan in here. We got a bunch of stuff. What else we got in here? We got I think we got a few memes in here. We've got some Trump derangement. Lots of stuff. We got some nice stuff too. Let's see. Lots and lots of stuff. Okay. So let's get to the chat. Well, we put on some calming noodle cooking. All right. So what's everybody saying here? Let's see. Rosie's asking, is there a limit to how many are in the press room? Why would one remove MSM and not just add the Joe Rogan or Candace Owens or Radio Baloney? They're not going to send me there. I mean, it's a room, and there's only so much room in it, I guess. And I don't know, maybe there's some sort of, there's probably some sort of room rule about how many people can actually be there. Maybe it's a safety thing. I don't know. But why not have some independent media there? Why not? I mean, somebody with a lot of independent journalists have bigger audiences than the mainstream journalists. Rosie asks, Spaniards in the pantry. What does that mean? It's just an old thing. It was in a Simpsons episode. I think Mr. Burns said it. Let the Spaniards in the pantry. It's decades old. Yeah, it was Mr. Burns. It was something Mr. Burns said in the Simpsons many, many years ago, and I thought it was hilarious because it doesn't really make any sense is the thing about it, right? That's why I like it. Rosie says, wonder if I can sue my town for not honoring my birthday. This is the thing. I'm going to go, and this is actually a great point because I'm going to go into this, like how it's actually discriminatory against everybody else. Right? If you've got one group that demands that must be celebrated for a month every year and everybody must do it, that's obviously discriminatory against everybody else. But we'll get into that. Rosie's asking $5,000 of his own money. Yep. That's how it's just once you get in the clutches of the woke commissars in Canada, they don't let go. Rosie says, I never watched The Simpsons. I know, blasphemy. It used to be good. A long time ago, it used to be good. Let's see. What's everybody else saying here? Let's see. Noodle Lady. Spambot Fodder says, Noodle Lady. Says, what a great way to start a stream. I know, that's why I do it. Somebody was in the in my comments on YouTube and said, what did she say? Said, I'm a 65-year-old lady and I'm disgusted with your obsession with boobs. If you want to lose your audience, it's like, here's the thing. You want to sell anything? You put boobs on it. Anything. Boobs. It just works. And personally, I'm not some kind of like prude. I'm not some kind of Puritan. I appreciate the female form. You know, I mean, mostly it's about the noodle cooking, let's be honest. But, you know, there are boobs there too. And I'm not a prude. I'm not a Puritan. I'm not some neo-Victorian, you know. And you know what? The lads like it. The lads like it. So that lady who got really offended, I guess her terms were acceptable. Don't have to watch. Let's see. What else we got going on here? Smell about fodder. Yep, first to hit like, got the double karma. It's good to claim that. Let's see. Smell about fodder says true Gina, a true soy boy, and true dope. All good names for Trudeau. Let's see. Izzy B, how you doing? Says just in time for the noodles, I see. That's what the lady in the comment section on YouTube doesn't understand. The lads like the noodles. They like them. Rumbum says true debt. Oh, that's a good one. That's a very good one. True debt. Yeah, that's true. He just lives to impoverish the Canadian people and put them further and further in debt forever. That's his whole thing. He loves it. He's good at it too. Really good at it. Let's see. Nancy Rumbum says, do I believe that China has invested interest in getting those drugs to overdose people in North America? You're goddamn right I do. Yes. Agreed. They could stop it in a second if they wanted to. They've got essentially a totalitarian state there. Super surveillance state. They could stop it if they wanted to. They don't because they've done the calculation and they've said, nope, we like it. This is better. This puts us in a better position vis-a-vis the United States. Izzy says, I'd love to hear a question from Radio Baloney. Yeah, I know. Maybe one day. It would have to be like the Canadian Press Gallery, though. Izzy says, you need to add some eye candy for the ladies. I just don't want to go there, is the thing. I just don't want to. I mean, I appreciate the ladies in the audience. They're wonderful. They're the best female audience on the internet, in my opinion. But I just don't want to do it. I just don't want to. Maybe one day I'll get comfortable with it, but I don't know. Not right now. Rosie says, I am keeping a list of OSHA violations. Improper safety glass wearing. You're right. Hot oil and too much exposed skin. She doesn't care. Rosie says, I do not care about the boobs, and I have enough testosterone in my life. I will just keep the list. You're right, though. You're right. Rumbum says, Sharon Stone realized spreading her legs, like back in 1992, won't, like, what was that called again? Oh, I forgot what that movie was called. I'm forgetting everything these days. 1992 won't get her attention, so she tried her northern lips, and in current day, it may be worse than seeing the southern. Oh, ooh, spicy. Spicy. Oh, dear. Poor Sharon Stone. Poor Sharon Stone. Oh, well, let's get to it, folks. Let me see if they're gonna rack me up any ads to read tonight. No, nothing. I don't know what's going on. Basic Instinct. That's what it was. Basic Instinct. All right. So Donald Trump Jr. says his dad may remove mainstream media from press room. I don't think that's quite what he meant. Donald Trump could reshuffle the White House briefing room to give podcasters like Joe Rogan more prominence than legacy media outlets, his son told Daily Wire host Michael Knowles on Monday. Well, I think I've got something here. Let's take a look. Daily Wire. All right, let's take a look at this.
But I wonder now, as your father is assembling his team, as maybe Caroline Leavitt is looking at the new press briefing room chart, maybe it's time to reorder that chart and maybe take away some people's seats.
So we're going to break some news here because I literally had this conversation. I was flying back. I was on the plane, I guess, with my father. I think it was coming back from the SpaceX launch with Elon last week. And I was sitting there. And we were talking about like the podcast world and some of our friends and Rogan and guys like you and me to a lesser extent. I wouldn't be able to get a seat. That would be nepotism or whatever the hell. I'd be indicted again. I'd have to do more congressional testimony, so I'll pass. But we actually had this conversation about given how the media has behaved. I mean, you brought up the New York Times. You saw the fact check of Bobby Kennedy talking about the different ingredients in Fruit Loops. And it was like, no, it's exactly the same as Canada, except we use yellow dye number 5 here instead of orange, carrots. And we use purple dye number 2,376 instead of blueberry extract. And I'm like, that's your fact check? It's the same, but for these really toxic chemicals that are banned in dozens of countries. I don't get it. But we had the conversation about opening up the press room to a lot of these independent journalists. Why should, if the New York Times has lied, they've been adverse to everything, they're functioning as the marketing arm of the Democrat Party, why not open it up to people who have larger viewerships, stronger followings? It's not like the New York, how much money are they losing a year? The Washington Post, lost 70 to 45 to $70 million. Doesn't seem like they're a great success. So just because they've been there longer, it's like the way Congress functions. You get a committee, not because you know anything about banking, but because you've been there longer. And it's
right.
Doesn't seem like a great way to do things. So we've had that conversation. That's a great idea, Don. I was like, I think we should do this. And so that may be in the works. Let's see. That's going to blow up some heads. So, we'll see.
So I think it's interesting, right? Why not? Actually, why not? Because trust in the people that are normally, and aside from the guy from Fox, what the hell's his name? I can't remember anybody's name anymore. What the hell happened? Did I bang my head on something? What I'm talking about. Hold on a second. Hold on one second.
Fact check.
Peter Doocy. That's who we're talking about. Aside from him, and just the odd exception here and there, it's basically just a bunch of liars. It's just a bunch of people throwing softballs to Karine Jean-Pierre or whoever is up there, if it's a Democrat, and generally just trying to manipulate by what they don't say often. Right. Or again, just flattering or throwing softballs. Right. So everybody's seen this now. So why not just have somebody who's not from that world, who's not some people who aren't indebted to the same powers, who aren't reliant on the same powers for their paychecks, say people are, independent, make their money independently of corporate media. How can that be a worse thing? Maybe get some interesting questions occasionally. Let's see. Knowles praised the idea, but predicted the Democrats would object to bringing more diverse voices into the press room. Well, that's the thing. They talk about diversity all the time. When they say diversity, they mean total and utter conformity. as long as everybody is like different skin colors. But but ideologically, it has to be total and utter conformity. That's what they mean by diverse. The left is going to answer you. They're going to say, well, the reason you need to keep the New York Times and Washington Post in there is because they influence people. And the whole point of the White House briefing room is to convey the messages of the White House to the American people. But this is different. You have the New York Times and Washington Post admitting that podcasters and streamers are eating their lunch. So, yeah, the problem is there's just simply no trust there anymore. Right, the New York Times admitted, the editor of the New York Times admitted after Trump was elected in 2016 that, their job was no longer to inform the public. It was to influence the public, because they blamed, trying to be objective, which they were not in 2016. They just hadn't gone full out with the narrative control and propaganda. But yeah, they blamed they blamed Trump's win on them not being propaganda enough. And they said it openly. Right? So why not? Why not? It's got to be better than it is now. Got to be better. I mean, it would at least make them occasionally interesting. They're not interesting very often. Again, Peter Doocy does a pretty good job, but he's pretty much the only voice in there that's at all adversarial, even if it's only mildly adversarial. And then you have a sprinkling occasionally of a couple others who will uncharacteristically actually push a little bit, but I guess we shall see. All right.
But I wonder now,
back.
As your
all right, I want to get to this I want to get to this tariff stuff from Trump, but first let's go back to the chat for a second. Let's see. Well, now you're talking about eye candy for the women in the audience. No, I'm just saying no. Maybe at some point in the future. I'll throw you something. Nothing right now. Let's see. Izzy says, legacy media has proven they can't be trusted, so why should they expect to hold their positions in the press corps? Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. There's no prestige there anymore. And they've proven that they're not principled, right? So it's all just an act. It's all just theater from them. So why? Why shouldn't we introduce some new blood into it? Why shouldn't some new blood get a chance to contribute? Let's see. Rumbum says the fact that the crazy lefties are totally ready for chems and food because Orange Man bad is just mind-blowing. Yeah, that's Trump derangement syndrome, obviously. Just whatever Trump says, they have to be the opposite of it. That's it. And you just see it over and over and over again. It's people, it's just first order thinking. It's just people who can't think long term. Everything is just the next second. It's like just that desire. It's like pressing a button to get that endorphin relief. The endorphin release over and over and over again. Just no forward thinking, no thinking about the future or delayed gratification, anything like just immediately now. I just need to hate Orange Man. And this is how I can do it. All I have to do is turn off my brain. Let's see. All right, let's get into this. So Trump is, he's solving problems and he's not even been sworn in yet. It's really incredible. It shows you that the rest of the world does respect Trump. They do. The ladies on The View may not, right? But world leaders have a different view of Donald Trump. Breaking: Trump will sign an immediate executive order on January 20th to charge China an additional 10% tariff on all of their products entering the United States. So let's read this. This is a truth. I have had many talks with China about the massive amounts of drugs, in particular fentanyl, being sent to the United States, but to no avail. Representatives of China told me they would institute their maximum penalty, that of death, for any drug dealers caught doing this, but unfortunately, they never followed through, and drugs are pouring into our country, mostly through Mexico, at levels never seen before. Until such a time as they stop, we will be charging China an additional 10% tariff above any additional tariffs on all of their many products coming into the United States of America. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I just love how it ends. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Clearly, China is pumping fentanyl into, well, every Western country, because they're all seen as adversaries to China, but most notably the United States. And yeah, they're not going to stop unless they're forced to. Obviously, China could stop it immediately. It's a totalitarian state. They could stop it right now. The fact that they don't, it means that they want it to happen. They want to ship it. They want to hurt the West. So, I mean, they state openly, China states, the Communist Party of China states openly that they are an adversary. They're not friends with the West. They're adversaries of the West, most especially the United States. So what do? Well, you have to talk tough. You have to get tough. I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean, they're not, what else are they going to respect, right? You have to make big threats. This is a big threat. China is not doing well economically right now. So this would be a major problem for them, considering that the United States is the largest importer of their products, right? So I don't know. This just makes sense, right? I expect you're going to see China will, this is the fact that the United States imports more Chinese products than, or products made in China than any other country, is huge leverage against them. They're going to have to do something. This makes sense to me. It seems like it's time for something like this, but we'll see what actually happens. Now, on to the other part of this, Donald J. Trump. As everyone is aware, thousands of people are pouring through Mexico and Canada, bringing crime and drugs at levels never seen before. Right now, a caravan coming from Mexico, composed of thousands of people, seems to be unstoppable in its quest to come through our currently open border. On January 20th, as one of my first executive orders, I will sign all necessary documents to charge Mexico and Canada a 25% tariff on all products coming into the United States and its ridiculous open borders. This tariff will remain in effect until such time as drugs, in particular fentanyl, and all illegal aliens stop this invasion of our country. Both Mexico and Canada have the absolute right and power to easily solve this long simmering problem. We hereby demand that they use this power, and until such time that they do, it is time for them to pay a very big price. Now, I have seen that I have seen that a statement has been put out by the president of Mexico that big caravan that was trying to get across the border before Trump took over is not going to reach the border. In fact, let's do a quick fact check here. Let's do another check. This stuff is all happening kind of quick.
Fact check.
Hold on a second. One second. Let's see if I can find something here. Hold on. All right, here we go. This is from Newsweek. Migrant caravans not reaching border, Claudia Scheinbaum says after Trump threats. So that was quick. I mean, that just seems like a massive win. And Trump hasn't even been sworn in yet. He's just the president-elect. He's not actually the president yet. That seems pretty efficient to me, right? That seems pretty effective. Big deal. That's a big deal. Biden couldn't, they weren't doing this under Biden, of course, because Biden wanted the caravans to go across the border, right? He sued states to stop them from preventing people from crossing the border illegally. But that seems to be pretty effective. I mean, that you see this seems to be why people voted for Trump. So anybody who voted for Trump is going to see this and go, okay, that's good. All right, it's already paying off. What? Already? That's impressive. Now, as for Canada, it's an embarrassment that this even needs to be said. This shouldn't, United States is our largest trading partner. We're neighbors, great friends. We're supposed to be great friends with each other, supposed to be best friends with each other. It's embarrassing that this even has to be said. And it's a testament to why you don't elect and then re-elect 2 more times a woke fancy boy to run your country. Just a bad idea. What's his prior experience? Let's see, drama teacher and snowboard instructor. Yeah, I don't think that'll cut it. Yeah, also he's kind of, he's a little bit, I don't know. Not there's anything wrong with that, by the way. But it's a great idea to just weed those people out from like running your country. Canada's become a cautionary tale, right? So I guess that's our service. If anything good has come of it, it will maybe help other countries avoid a similar fate. So what is Trump saying here? Thousands of people are pouring through Mexico and Canada, bringing crime and drugs at levels never seen before. Again, this should never have been an issue in the first place. This is Trudeau. It's Trudeau's Canada. Trudeau's what has brought this upon us. And this should be solved immediately. Everything should be done to solve this. It should never have been a problem in the first place. And with responsible leadership, it would not have been. Let's see. Rosie says everything woke turns
to shit.
It sure does, Don. Sure does. So again, it's embarrassing. This never should have been an issue. This never should have needed to be said in the first place. Now, Trump comes out with the big ask, with the shock and awe, and then it settles down. He wants to get everybody's attention. Well, I'll tell you what, he's gotten everybody in Canada's attention. He's gotten the Prime Minister's attention. He's gotten the loyal opposition's, the official opposition's attention. And that's the point, right? This will be good for Canada. This will force the government to deal with our own immigration problems and with drug smuggling problems, with drug problems, drug trafficking problems. This is stuff that we should have had a handle on all along. Of course, True China. So there you go. Don't elect a True China to run your country. That's Canada's gift to the world. That's our lesson to the world. Hey, we tried it out. This is what happened. So you can thank us later. But again, this is stuff that Canada should have been dealing with. It will make Canada a better country, a stronger country, less people. If Canada is now forced to deal with our own drug problems, because that's obviously deeply connected to what Trump is concerned about, and our own immigration problems, deeply connected to what Trump is concerned about. Obviously, these are the sources of Trump's concerns, right? Canada will be better. Canada will be a better country. I think that Pierre Poilievre, when he gets elected, God willing, will have a great relationship with Trump. I think it'll be very good for Canada, very good for the Canadian economy. I think there will be mutually, positive sum game deals for Canada and the U.S. Trump loves to make deals, but he also understands that everybody has to win. I think it's going to be an excellent thing for Canada. And I think in a more limited sense, because Canada has a much smaller economy than the U.S., but it'll also be good for the United States as well. So here we are. It's sad that we had to get to this place. in the first place? Let's see. Canadian Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says Trudeau needs to drastically change course amid Trump's 25% tariff threat. So what's he saying in here? Let's take a look. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau responded to President-elect Donald Trump's threat to slap a 25% tariff on all Canadian products, encouraging a united Team Canada approach from the federal and provincial governments. Official opposition leader Pierre Poilievre says that won't be enough and demanded that Trudeau needs to drastically change course with his policies. I mean, the thing is with Trump, he understands the problems that that would arise from this 25% tariff. He doesn't want what he's doing. It's a shock and awe. It's like, get your act together now. We want to see you do something. That's what Canada has to do. Whether or not Trudeau will be sensible enough to do it, I don't know. But if he doesn't, it's going to create a crisis, a serious crisis. Let's see. Trudeau described a phone conversation he had with Trump after the tariff threat as a good call and said, obviously, we talked about relating on the facts, talked about how the intense, effective connections within our capacities flow back and forth. Ugh. To say you had a good call, Justin, honestly, we talked about some of the challenges that we can work on together. It was a good call, laying out the facts and moving forward in constructive ways. Trump hates you. He's right to. The Prime Minister described Canada's relationship with the U.S. as one that, quote, takes a certain amount of working on, and says the federal government would be pulling together with the provinces on this Team Canada approach. You know, Trudeau is an idiot. I'm skeptical of him being able to do anything competently, and also within any kind of reasonable time frame as well. All right, let's go to Poilievre here. Let's see what he's saying. Okay.
About a week ago, Justin Trudeau admitted that he broke our immigration system, and that brings new challenges. His own published documents show there are 4.9 million people here temporarily that are supposed to leave by December 31st of next year, 13 months from now. 4.9 million people. We asked what the plan was to track their departures, and yesterday his immigration minister said, we're just going to take people at their word. He admits that there have been 2 ISIS terrorists allowed into our country. What is the plan to protect our security and reinstate sovereignty over who is in our country? I don't want to stop drug overdoses to please Donald Trump. I want to stop drug overdoses so that there's not one more mother with her face buried in a pillow sobbing that she just lost her kid after 47,000 other Canadians have died. That's more than we lost in the Second World War. A 200% annual increase in drug overdose deaths have resulted from Justin Trudeau's radical liberalization of drugs. Justin Trudeau must put partisanship aside, not just for the sake of Team Canada, but for the sake of our people, and fully reverse his liberalization of drugs. Ban them, prosecute those who traffic in them, secure our borders against the illegal importation of fentanyl ingredients, put people in treatment and recovery to bring our loved ones home drug-free. That is necessary now more than ever.
So there are things in that are very interesting. So he's saying some interesting things there. He says there are 4.9 million people who are temporarily in Canada until the end of 2025. After that, they'll be in the country illegally if they don't leave. Of course, the Trudeau government doesn't actually want any of them to leave, wants everybody to stay, so they're not going to track it. They haven't even figured out a plan to track it. By the way, this whole growing the public sector by 40% hasn't made anything work better. Everything seems to work worse. But in any case, so who knows how many nobody knows how many have overstayed their visas and who are now illegally in Canada. How many is it? 100,000, millions? Is it millions? Nobody knows. If you're in the Trump administration or the future Trump administration and looking at this, you're saying, well, okay, that's a problem because those people might just decide to try and cross the northern border into the United States. They might try and sneak in. That's lots of people. This is a major security threat for the United States. These are the kinds of problems that never should have, these are the sorts of concerns that never should have arisen in the first place with competent government, responsible government in Canada. Now, what he said about drugs and the drug epidemic and the overdose epidemic in Canada is it feels like it's a little bit like what I've been saying. I've been saying that, and I've made many videos on this, by the way, and if you subscribe to the channel, you can look it up. Look at my videos. You'll find I've done videos on harm reduction, so-called harm reduction, which appears in practice to actually be life reduction. Because if harm reduction is a order of magnitude increase in people dying and attendant crime and everything around drug addiction, families being devastated, all that. If that's harm reduction, well, those words don't mean anything anymore. It seems to be like everything with the left, right? Everything they say, it's the opposite of that. If they call something harm reduction, you can just count on it being life reduction, and that is what it actually is. And I've been saying for a while now, and again, hey, look, I was a liberal, always a liberal. I always believed the war on drugs is crazy and stuff. Now it doesn't seem so crazy. Seems like they might have actually been onto something. Was it perfect? Was there still lots of addiction? Was there still lots of overdose deaths? Were criminals still making huge amounts of money? Yes. Was it less bad than it is now? Yes. Yes, when you've got an order of magnitude more death, that means it's worse. That means it's not harm reduction. That means it's life reduction at that point. So it seems the only rational thing to do would be to go back to what we were doing 20, 25 years ago before we started implementing harm reduction in places like Vancouver or in the States and places like San Francisco. Go back and then to what we were doing then and then reevaluate. Like, let's just say, let's get 10 times less people to die first, and then we're going to reevaluate and see how we can improve from there. So Pierre Poilievre is talking about prosecuting.
About a week ago.
What did he say?
That she just lost her kid. After 47,000 other Canadians have died. That's more than we lost in the Second World War. A 200% annual increase in drug overdose deaths have resulted from Justin Trudeau's radical liberalization of drugs. Justin Trudeau must put partisanship aside, not just for the sake of Team Canada, but for the sake of our people, and fully reverse his liberalization of drugs. Ban them, prosecute those who traffic in them, secure our borders against the illegal importation of fentanyl.
Ban them, prosecute them, secure the borders against the importation of them. That sounds kind of like the war on drugs, which I think that if we're taking a rational look at results, at reality, if we're going to accurately describe reality, there is no question harm reduction, the liberalization of drug policies, has been a disaster, right? It sounds nice. It all sounds nice. And you can have far leftist politicians stand up and say, these policies save lives. And they do. And they do it all the time. The problem is that they're either liars or idiots. Because when you look at the numbers, and again, if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe. You can see the videos I've made on this. I pull out government data to prove it to you. There is no question. It's not my opinion. It's actual, real, dead bodies and devastated families. So I think Pierre Poilievre is on the right track here. Like, let's maybe get back to some basics here, right? And start doing the things that resulted in less people dying. Will there be people dying of drug overdoses in the future, regardless of what you do? Yes. I think that the idea is to minimize it as much as possible. And we've clearly been on the wrong track with liberalizing these policies. It has been an unqualified disaster. And there's no question that it's just simply an accurate description of reality. So I'm looking forward to him getting in, and at least we can start moving in the direction of sanity again. How good he will be, I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic, but we'll have to keep the pressure on. All right, so what else have we got here? Okay, Ryan Garrettson saying, this was a good, strong message from Pierre. And liberals' heads just exploded. All right, let's hear it.
What do you think about the idea of Canada striking a separate bilateral agreement with the U.S., separate from Mexico? Do you endorse that idea?
Canada first. Let's put it this way. One, I only care about Canada. I want to put our country first. Two, America is responsible for over 60% of our trade. We trade more with the U.S. than we do with the rest of the world combined. I will do what is necessary to preserve and protect that relationship above all others.
See, that's just an adult in the room, right? We've had Mother Trudeau for 9 years. Mother Trudeau has not worked out very well, right? Mother Trudeau just seems like she's just drinking, she's drinking white wine spritzers all day, right? And just running up the credit card and making bad decisions and acting emotionally. It's time for Dad. It's time for Dad to enter the picture again, right? That's what Canada needs, right? Canada needs to get its own house in order again so that threats like we've seen from Trump are no longer necessary. I think that Pierre Poilievre is the guy who's going to get us back into this. I think he'll have a great relationship with Trump, and I think they're going to see eye to eye on a lot. I don't think that Pierre Poilievre, he's going to be so scrutinized by the media and so hyper aware of constant accusations of him, being like a sycophant to Trump or something like that. No, he's not going to want that. But I think that Trump will respect him, and I think they'll be able to get fair. He'll be able to get fair deals, good deals, mutually beneficial deals, both for Canada and the United States. I just certainly trust an adult who's not ruled by emotion, and he wasn't constantly virtue signaling, and he wasn't an insane narcissist. They're all narcissists to some extent. Obviously, just to have a YouTube channel, you got to be a narcissist to some extent, right? But an adult, a real adult. Let's see. What else have we got here? Okay, so here we are in Parliament. Pierre Poilievre asked Justin Trudeau what the plan is to crack down on drugs so we can save lives and keep the U.S. and Canadian border open. Spoiler alert, there's no plan. There's never a plan. Just he's figuring out somehow now just to spend. Trudeau's plan is to spend money just on something, right? So I don't know what he'll spend it on. He'll probably just hire a brand new public sector bureaucracy. That's probably a solution. Actually, that's perfect. He'll probably just create a new bureaucracy that will do nothing and costs like $1 billion a year. Let's see.
Now move over to drugs. The Prime Minister's disastrous legalization and liberalization of drugs has the Americans worried, in addition to costing 47,000 deaths in Canada. Where's the plan to stop the drugs and keep our border open to trade?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the Leader of the Opposition is just making stuff up. I clearly spoke with the President of the United States an hour and a half after he put out his suggestion on tariffs. The reality is we're going to continue to work constructively with the incoming administration to protect Canadian jobs, to protect Canadian growth, not to take the responsible approach that isn't steeped in partisanship, that pulls together the Team Canada approach that stands up for Canadians instead of throwing our arms up and saying all is broken like the leader of the opposition.
Now move over to
So his plan is to just spout a bunch of meaningless gibberish. Well, that's normal. That's typical. That's typical of Trudeau. That's exactly what you would expect of Trudeau. Nothing. Just spout a bunch of useless gibberish. It's just beyond frustrating at this point. He's got nothing. Let's watch this beginning part again.
drugs. The Prime Minister's disastrous legalization and liberalization of drugs has the Americans worried, in addition to costing 47,000 deaths in Canada. Where's the plan to stop the drugs and keep our border open to trade?
Here's the thing, is that Trudeau can't do anything about drugs because he's Trudeau. Right? Like, why couldn't the Soviet Union adapt and survive? Because it was the Soviet Union, right? Why can't a woke prime minister like Justin Trudeau come up with an effective plan that will be good for his own country, for trade with his own country? Obviously, we want to avoid 25% tariffs, right? Save lives in Canada. Why can't he come up with a plan that will do that? Why can't he adapt? Because he's a woke, progressive lunatic. That's why he can't. It would be against everything that he believes in. To do something that will be useful and help Canadians is against everything that he believes in. He's not capable of doing it. He can't. He could make some gesture. He could throw out a few nice words about it, but he won't be able to actually do anything, right? What's he capable of? He's capable of creating bureaucracies, right? Bureaucracies to censor, bureaucracies to do what? To waste money. He's good at throwing money around. He's good at giving money away to his cabinet so they can enrich themselves with slush funds. And he can't even do that effectively because he gets caught, right? But no, I mean, he's not going to be able to do it. And the reason he can't do it is because he's him. He's Trudeau. That's why. That's why there's not going to be any real plan. He'll try and fake his way through somehow, but he's just not capable. And again, doing anything that would be useful when you're talking about drug addiction and the human tragedy surrounding it and his own policies. And let's not forget, it's because of his policies. At least the increase is because of his policies, right? They're his policies because that's who he is. The policies in Canada are there because that's who Trudeau is. He's not capable of anything else. Right? It would be heresy for him to do anything that would actually be effective or anything that would seem like something an adult would do. Right? So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe he'll surprise us. All right. Do you know, we're 54 minutes in, and I think it's time that we shut off the YouTube portion of this. And actually, we've got a bit more of the Canadian stuff, but I think right now is a good time to cut off the Canadian portion of this. Looks like we got Much Joy over there in the chat. Let's see, where's Much Joy? You know, I'm not sure if his chats were coming over onto the Rumble side. Let's see. Hold on a sec. Anyway, if you're still over there, Much Joy, come over to Rumble and join us over here. Hope to see you. Otherwise, we're cutting off the YouTube portion of this. We always start on both Rumble and YouTube. And then we cut the YouTube part off, usually about an hour and a half in, just because of the censorship. It's just problems. The longer the stream goes on YouTube, the more problems there are. So try to keep it to an hour. Please join us over on YouTube if you're on Rumble. On Rumble if you're on YouTube. I just pulled a Biden. Keep doing that. All right. Anyway, goodbye, Stalin Tube. See you on Friday. The customary sigh of relief.